guys, welcome back to the channel, man. Today we are going to be making a custom harness from a factory harness. So I call it custom because I'm going to completely tear it all apart and put it back together. So I mean, that makes it custom, right? Anyhow, I have one done so far. I've already spent hours on this and I have one done. My alternator plug. So I went ahead and I pulled all of the wiring out of the loom for the alternator, and this is what it is we are going to be doing with every single sensor on this damn engine, bro. So as you can see, the pins are still on there. That is the pins that actually go into the clip that plugs into our ECU for the Blazer. So I completely unloomed the harness, pull these wires out, and I have them labeled, and we're gonna go inside and I'm gonna show you my process right now. Ow, baby! Yes, you are damn right, I am doing this inside of the house. If I can do something like this that's not gonna make a crazy mess in the air conditioning, then why on earth would I not do it? And yeah, there's a green screen behind me. I thought that would just add some effect to the video. I never get to use my green screen, okay? So this is my madness. I am going through, like I said, and I'm doing one sensor at a time. So right now, I am pulling these three wires out. These three wires go to our crank sensor. So that is how far I've gotten so far. So you have to you find the sensor that you want to pull out, and you just have to trace the wires all the way through. So once you get up here into this big old bundle of wires, it gets a little confusing. You gotta get, you know, it's kind of like going through a maze, bro. You gotta keep track of your wires, don't lose them. So this is how far I've gotten. I'm gonna go ahead and continue following these wires all the way up to the clips. Most important part of this is keeping track of where it is you pulled the wire out of the clip. So I went ahead and I printed myself out like my own ability to make a diagram here, right? So these are the two plugs that are on the red clip. There's 20 slots by 2, so there is a line of 20 pins stacked. So there's 20 and 20, and that is on the left side of the red clip. So if you look at the red clip, there is 20 and 20, and there most certainly isn't 40 wires in there, but we have to mark each spot. And then over here, there is a right side to the red clip. So I have it labeled red left and then red right. So any wire that I pull out of there, I'm gonna mark the wire, and then I'm gonna mark it on here. So as of right now, we pulled the alternator wires out. The alternator wires were on the left side of the red clip, and these are where I pull those wires from, is right here, number 1 and 2. And then I wrote a little note over here just to help me, alternator 1 and 2. So as I keep pulling pins, I'm going to label them. Alternator was 1, 2. The crank sensor is going to be 3, 4, and 5, and so on. I'll label them 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 as I pull wires out. So if you come out here and look at my alternator wires, you see I have a 1 and a 2, and that corresponds with where I have it marked on my little sheet of paper. So that's the most important thing. As you pull a pin out, you just pull it out. You have to make sure to mark it in some kind of way to where you know 100% for certain that you are going to be able to put it back where you pulled it out from. Alright, so I followed the crank sensor wires all the way up. There's 3 wires. I have them labeled now, number 3, 4, and 5 on my wires themselves. And then you come over here to the diagram that I'm making, and I put crank sensor 3, 4, and 5. And I also labeled it inside of our boxes so I know where our pin is going. So we have a 3 here, and then a 4, and then a 5. And as you can see, it splits up. So 4 and 5 is on the right hand side of the blue clip. 4 and 5 is on blue right. And then number 3 is on the left hand side of the blue clip. So number 3 is on the blue left. And you just count the boxes, you know what I'm saying? Like this one's easy. You can see it's on the bottom far right corner. So bottom far right corner. And then these ones I just counted over, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And then you count it on your box here and just mark it where it's at, bro. It's as simple as that. So now it's all marked. I know exactly where it is. It was, so I can go ahead and pull those wires out and get the wiring all the way out of the harness completely. There's just some little clips in here that you have to push in. You just push in on it and then it pulls up just like that. So So you see that little white portion right here that's on the side? Right there, there's a little clip in there. You just have to push that in and then pull up. And then this thing comes right off just like that. That's how both sides are. Both of the blues and both of the reds are the same way. Just like that. And make sure that, I mean, they're already marked from factory, but I went ahead and I marked it with a Sharpie so I know 100% for sure which one is blue and which one is red. Because once you take these off, there's no more color. In order to pull these pins out, dude, this is the easiest thing in the freaking world. Our pin that we need to pull is this one right here. These little white clips right here on the front, that is the only thing that is holding it in. So you literally just have to pull that forward, which you can do it with your fingernail. I'm trying to do it with a screwdriver so it's easier to record. But you literally just pull that forward right there. You have to kind of lean the pin forward some because it locks in the back also, and then just push it down. Once you get it pushed down a little bit, then you can grab the wire from the back side and just pull it all the way out, dude. Just like that. And to put these pins back in, you just slide it in, dude. You slide it in until it clips, and that is it. Easiest thing in the world. So that's number 3. Find our number 4. It's right here. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do it with my fingernail. Bam, bam. So that's 3 and 4. Now we just gotta find 5. It's the second one over. 1, 2. All right, it is a little bit harder whenever there's a bunch of clips right next to it. So I'm gonna go back to the screwdriver. So pull that little locking piece forward, push the pin forward a little bit, and then push it down. Bam. And that right there is my crank sensor, dude. That's all 3 wires for the crank sensor. We have them depinned from the clip, and now I'm just gonna weed them out of this harness. That's our 3 wires. They're labeled exactly where it is that they go, so we know where to put them back. We have our clip, and now we're just gonna go out there and plug this into the crank sensor. So I just went through and I electrical taped it about every 6 to 8 inches or so, just to keep the wires all together and neat. All right, so now we're gonna reach back in here and plug the crank sensor in. Bow, just like that. So now we have our wiring running off for the crank sensor. And yeah, dude, just gonna go through and do that with every single one of them. Once they are all done, then I can start routing stuff. Like I can route this over. So the crank sensor is gonna go with that oil level sensor. And then I'll put a zip tie on it, and then I'll route it over and figure out exactly where I want it to go. The wiring normally went across the front of the engine, right underneath the oil pan right here. I don't know if I'm gonna run it that way or not. I might run it through the back. Though actually, you know what? The header is gonna be in the way. So yeah, I'll probably just run it the same way it had it stock, but I'm not gonna have a bunch of excess slack, you know what I'm saying? I can put it exactly where it is I want it and run it over here, and then it'll also pick up with the temperature sensor, which is right here. And once we get that wiring done, so these wires will come over, then it will connect with the temperature sensor. I'll put a zip tie on it, and then we could bring our alternator wire over. You know what I'm saying? We're building a harness. So then we are creating the legs of the harness, basically. One sensor at a time, keeping our wires nice and straight and tight. So at the end, it'll be a nice thin, easy to hide and tuck harness. That's not just all freaking crazy and all over the place like it was. Coolant temp. So I worked all night on this. I got probably 75% of the harness done last night. And now here we are. This is what it is I have remaining. So I have the coil pack harness and injectors for the passenger side, and O2 sensors, grounds, MAF sensor. We just have this little bit of the harness left that I have to get all weeded out, and then we can start putting it on the truck. I think I have enough done that I can start routing this and start making our new harness. This right here is all fuel injectors, so I don't have the wiring taped up on these the way that I do the rest, because a fuel injector is only 2 wires, and only one of these wires actually goes to the ECU. The other one goes to a completely different place. So I have all the this is all the passenger side injectors. All the pink wires go to one. It's the same with all the driver side injectors. All the pink wires go to one. But as for everything else, I have it all taped up, all nice, so we can run this and route it wherever it is that we need to go. I ran into one issue, one problem so far. Oh, actually, by the way, the entire passenger side bank of injectors, I'm lucky that I tore this thing apart, because the guy that built this harness before, as you guys know, this harness was already like molested. All of these wires go into one. So you have 5 pink wires that go into one single wire on the other side. Well, this guy had all these going into a crimp connector, and the one single wire on the one side literally just pulled right out. Like, it was barely in there. That was most certainly gonna cause me some future problems and headaches, and throwing a goddamn gas can on this sumbitch and lighting it up. You know what I'm saying? That would have been one of those troubleshooting thing, like nightmares. Anyhow, I'm glad I found that before it became a problem. But we do have another issue. There's only one O2 sensor plug on this entire harness, bro. I took everything apart, and there's only one O2 sensor, and we need 2 of them. I think this would have originally had 4, so you're supposed to eliminate the second bank of O2 sensors, because you're not going to use that. But the first 2, like, you need those, and there's only 1. Your harness has 2 O2 sensors, right?
It has 2 going both, like one is like they're connected to both
yeah,
sides.
because there's 2 headers, there's 2 manifolds. Like, you need one on both sides. So that's going to be an issue that we need to take care of right now, because if I go and just move forward, I can't just add it later. I'd have to tear the harness all apart in order to run the wires. So kind of my only option is something that I really don't want to do, but would be to get a whole nother clip with the wiring running all the way to the pin, like to get a whole nother one out of this other harness that I have here. But in order to do that, like, I have 2 options. I either have to completely tear the harness apart to get from clip all the way to the pins on the ECU clip, or where it plugs into the O2 sensor, just kind of get back as far as I can, get as much wiring as I can, and then clip it, and then find those pins on the ECU, and then get as much wiring as I can, well, on the ECU clip, and then clip it, and then de-pin it, and then I'll have like the 2 ends that I need to add some wire in the center and solder it together and whatever. But I don't know, man. Either way really sounds interesting to do to me right now. I wish it just had it in this harness already. And really, this is a completely unmolested harness. We have 2 of them. And I don't want to molest it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a molester.
Hold up.
Okay.
Okay, you went too far with the dark humor, right?
Yeah, that is a little bit.
You guys remember this little plastic piece that I removed from the harness? I was like, I don't need that shit. Well, it turns out I'm gonna actually use that, because this thing is freaking dope. There's a couple sensors over here on the side of the engine. It has to come down and pass along the front of the engine, like right along the oil pan, and then it shoots up that way to pick up with some other sensors. This thing is freaking perfect, dude. I can't believe I was gonna throw this away. So there's a hole right there on the oil pan, and then if you look on this side, you see that number 10 bolt. I'm actually glad this bolt is here too, so now I don't have to go searching for one. I freaking love that I do this. Like, whenever I take stuff apart, I always just put the nuts and bolts back where it is I found them. So you hold this plastic piece up here. Do you see that thing right there? That little nub right there actually goes into the oil pan right here, just like that. And then over here on this side, it bolts where we just took that number 10 out, and that will actually hold the wiring and keeps it safe. You know what I'm saying? So we have our oil level sensor down there. It is literally one single wire, and it goes to a ground, which I don't understand, but that's how it was. Alright, so I have been just like so confused by this oil level sensor. Like it just has a ground. It's one black wire, and inside of the harness it just went to the ground. So it had me like, how can that possibly be sending any kind of signal? I just got done looking it up, and it is supposed to be a 2-wire sensor. There is supposed to be a wire coming out of this side that actually goes to the PCM. So yeah, I'm missing that as well. God, I'm just barely starting to put this back together, and I'm already having problems, man. See, this is stuff that I would have had issues with, that I would have been stuck troubleshooting. I mean, really, I don't need the low oil level sensor. I mean, I have a low oil level sensor right here, so I don't know if I just move on without it, or I mean, it's just one of those things. If it wasn't for just this one damn wire, like, it would be really nice to have that as a warning light. Because to put it out there, I am gonna try to put the Tahoe gauge cluster inside of this. I feel like it would be dope, and it's relatively easy to do. And it has a light on there for low oil, so it would just be a freaking awesome function to have, you know what I'm saying? Alright, so this is where I am at so far, in which, by the way, I ended up pulling an entire another clip out of that harness, the other harness, for the oil level, so that I have both plugs now. So that's gonna actually work. While I was at it, I also pulled out the wire that goes to the signal for the starter, so that we don't have to make one. I now have a factory one, but I have all that wiring routed going around the front of the oil pan with our little plastic piece, and then it bends and goes up. It shoots up this way, and that is where it picks up the temperature sensor, the alternator plug, and also I have a ground right there. All that ties into one another and comes to about here, and that is where it picks up the idle control valve and the TPS, swing over and connect with it, and then it follows over here. So I am going to try to keep this as simple as possible. I was going to tuck the harness in there, and then I started thinking, bro, I'm going to have to tuck all the clips through there. So no, I'm gonna have it on the front of the fuel rail. So then it will tuck down in here by the valve cover, and it keeps running, and it's picking up each one of these injectors as it goes along, and the coil pack harness. The coil pack harness plug. And I made it to where the injectors are gonna actually loop up around the fuel rail. Otherwise, like, I don't want these injector plugs to be super short. Just in case in the future I need to depin this and add different plugs, or if I need a little length of wire here, if I have to cut it for whatever reason, I wanna have a decent amount of wire here on my injectors. So that's why, instead of it coming off and having to go up and have like a hard bend to the wire for the plug to go into the injector, I have it actually wrapping around the fuel rail, and all of that just follows back to right here, and that is how far I've gotten. And I am running all my wiring up over the booster, because I plan on putting my ECU hopefully right here, because this is where the wiring harness for the body is at. I'm gonna have a harness that's gonna come up here for all my headlights and everything. I figured keep all that there because we have the booster here, and then the ECU will be mounted here. My little fuse box will be mounted here, because on this side we have a battery tray. The battery will be right here, but then we have all the bulkiness of the air conditioning that is going to take up that whole firewall, and the canister and stuff extends way out here. So I just to kind of like even it out, I feel like it's better to mount the ECU on that side. But yeah, man, that's where I'm at so far, dude. I'm not gonna lie, I mean, this was a little intimidating at first, but now that I am freaking balls deep in this shit, it's not too terrible. So I have this entire side over here to do, all these injectors and that coil pack harness. I don't think there's much else over here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than that, it's all the stuff on the back. The knock sensor, oil pressure, there was something else. Passenger side coil pack, knock sensor, the cam sensors on the back. That's the one I can remember. Oil pressure, map sensor. And then I have the O2 sensor, and we have two O2 sensors. You guys know the deal with that. I explained it earlier. And then this is the speed sensor. Actually, I need to go and look up and see if I'm going to be able to use this or not, because there is a plug on the side of that NV3500 transmission. I don't know exactly what it is. I would assume it's a speed sensor, right? So I don't know. I'm going to go and search that right now and see if this is something I'm going to be able to use to run to the transmission in order to sense our speed, you know what I'm saying? Oh, that's the old oil level. That's my single pin oil level that had the Bluetooth connector that goes to the ECU. So here's another cool benefit to building your own harness, basically. So this wiring right here that runs down the side of the engine, like, I don't want it to just be kind of hanging there, you know what I'm saying? Now there is a place to put a bolt. Instead of like finishing the harness and potentially like putting a strap right here to hold the harness up, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add a ground right there. I mean, what better to hold the damn harness up, right? So just like that, not only did I add an extra ground, because you can't have too many grounds, but now I also have support right there for the harness. And I zip tied it in with the rest of the wires, and I left it just kind of hanging off over here because remember, we do have to take the harness off and then I have to loom it. There's no need to have to run this right now, you know what I'm saying? After I take the harness off, then I can connect all my grounds. So I've been kind of doing that with all of them. So you see I got a ground sticking out here that I didn't continue in with all those. There's another one here. So I've just been kind of leaving the grounds out. So once I get all the wiring and everything ran, then we can go ahead and remove the harness and I can get it inside on my table again. And then I can figure out where it is I want to bunch all my grounds up at. So when I tore this harness apart, I realized that every single ground on this harness connects to one another. You know what I'm saying? They all just kind of go into one. Well, actually there was two junctions. So I think it was like all the sensors on this side that needed a ground and all the sensors on this side that needed a ground, all kind of connected to one another. But yeah, that's the plan. Just kind of leaving the grounds hanging off and running all the wires that actually go to the ECU. You know what I'm saying? And then because these grounds are not going to run all the way over here, I'm doing the same with all the power wires for the injectors. I'm just kind of bunching them up and putting them up here. So once I get the shape of my harness and everything done, then I could take all this out, set it on the table, and figure out the best portion of the harness that I could lay this into and just jump them all together, because these all jump into one. This bunch over here all jumps into one. And they each have a power wire that runs over to the fuse box. But anyhow, I got everything on this side. I got everything on this side. So now the only thing I got left is all the stuff on the back. Alright, so I went through the process of completely removing another O2 sensor clip with the harness and the pins all the way to the ECU. So now we don't have to, earlier whenever I cut this out of that harness, now we don't have to do this whole extension thing. I pulled the entire thing out since I have the harness all torn apart anyhow. Look, I also learned something. So remember how I was mentioning earlier in this video, like the passenger side, for instance, all these pink wires were jumping to one power wire. And then the driver's side is the same thing. All the pink wires from the injectors and there's one from the coil pack, all jump to one power wire. I just realized while tearing apart that unmolested harness that all of those wires actually went to the fuse box. Each individual one went to the fuse box. So that whole, like all of them jumping into one thing, that was done by the guy who messed with this harness, you know what I'm saying? So you see, this is what I'm talking about. This was the unmolested harness. As you can see, it is now very much so molested. Anyhow, all those pink wires are right here. They all run to this fuse block, like all individually. So, and this is where it plugged into the back of the stock fuse block. But yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna go ahead and run it the way that the guy had the harness. It seemed to work like that. I'm just gonna make sure that the wires are all soldered and together really nice. But now I have pretty much everything on this side, the back of the engine. I had to come in and add this. I forgot the MAP sensor. Well, I didn't forget it, but I wasn't sure exactly what side I wanted to come out. So since being this side just kind of dead ends, and there's a whole lot more going on over here, I just went ahead and plugged the MAP sensor out this side of the harness. So I figured my intake is more than likely gonna come this way, even if it goes that way. I mean, this thing is super freaking long, and I don't even know, this might be something that we delete in the future. I think that you delete the MAP sensor and you run off of the maps, and I don't know, man. I'm no tuner, but in the future we may end up deleting that and I can just snip the wires back. But yeah, dude, it's coming along. The only thing that I have left now is that speed sensor for the transmission, and then my two O2 sensors that I'm gonna run down the back side of the block. I'm gonna get those put in and then get to start taking all this back off, and we can go figure out how to get it connected to the ECU for one and start looming it. Well, I have not picked this camera up in a very long time. I think it's like day 4. Is it day 3 or day 4?
Day 3. No. Yeah, 3.
Okay, it's day 3 working on this damn engine harness, bro. I have the harness done, okay? The harness is done. Like, everything is routed, everything is loomed all the way up until this point right here. So you see where the bare wire is at right there? And then, voila. This is what I have left. This is probably the hardest part of, well, no, not the hardest part, but it's still a lot of work left. I feel like I'm almost done, but yeah, that's a lot of work. If any of you guys have ever done a wire tuck, and you know you have to like label each individual wire, and you have to extend the wires and shorten some wires and solder, that's kind of what it is I'm doing right here, what I'm gonna have to do. Once I get it all out into one place, you notice I have some pins up here, some pins here, all the way through this, bro. Pin here, pin all the way on the ground. So yeah, because the wiring is ran in a completely different direction, and it's completely routed different than what it was, you know, originally from factory. So all these pins ended up in random ass places. So now I got to go through and I got to make all this one length, and I need my pins all on the end. And yeah, I most certainly am not excited about it, but it's got to be done. So yeah, I'm gonna continue on this. I'm probably gonna work on that all day tonight, or all night, and probably a good portion of tomorrow. Tomorrow, now for me right now, it's Thursday, so currently tomorrow is Friday. I'm hoping to have this video done for you guys at least by Friday. So if you're seeing this on Friday, I made it. But if you don't, I didn't make it. I did not make it. It's done. Finally done. I think it's done. I hope it's done. I feel like I genuinely feel like I have been in wiring prison. I haven't had a video up since Tuesday. I started on this on Tuesday. Oh my god. Okay, so starting over here, this is where the oil level and crank position sensor and the starter signal wire, and then it follows up. We have our first ground. This is the portion that goes around the bottom of the engine in front of the oil pan, and then it'll shoot up the engine, and that is where we have this is the alternator plug, this is the coolant temperature plug, we have another ground right here, And then this is the idle air control valve, TPS. And then that goes, it follows up and comes up along the side of the head where we have our injectors. So these are the driver side injectors and the driver side coil pack plug. And then that continues. And then it comes along over here. And right here is where we have like the oil pressure, NOx sensor, you know, all the plugs on the back of the head. I can't think of them all right now. Then I have a little leg right here that comes off. This is what will go, this comes off right across the center of the transmission. And then I have my two O2 sensors and then the speed sensor, in which I still need to figure out whether I'm going to be able to make this even work V3500 or not, but we'll find out. And we have another ground, and then that continues over to the passenger side injectors and the passenger side coil pack, and then off of the front of that extends out to my MAF sensor. Coming back over here, everything that goes on the engine, it all ties in and then goes this direction. So this portion right here is going to actually be passing underneath the brake booster, and then it's going to come up right here where the wheel well is at, and then my fender will be here. It's going to come up right here, and then the idea is to mount the ECU right here on the fender, and then also my fuse box will mount on this side. I think I explained this a couple of days ago when I was recording but over here there's going to be a whole shitload of air conditioning stuff, and then battery tray, and then over here basically this is going to be empty. So that's the reason why I opted to go ahead and put the ECU and that little fuse box on this side, because this is also where like all my other wiring and stuff is at. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to find what I need in here to send to my gauge cluster, but we'll find that out later. I'm not worried about that right now. But yeah, that's where this portion comes up and it plugs into the ECU there. And then I have this leg that comes off, goes over to the little fuse box, in which I found out that the guy had this wired up wrong, but I'm not gonna get into that. I figured it out, and that added another 2 or 3 hours on to this freaking madness. The hardest part is the loom. The loom was absolutely the hardest part, I must say, because that expandable loom, you can't expand it big enough to go over like clips and stuff. So I put the harness all together that first time when I had it just zip tied, bare wire on the engine, got everything routed, and then I took it in the house. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna loom it, and then I'm like, oh shit, I have to literally tear it all the way completely back apart. If I would have just got some regular ass loom, I probably would have been done with this days ago, but I wanted to do the whole expanded, like fancier looking loom. It is what it is. I'm just hoping that I'm gonna put this on the truck and the truck is still going to start, because I have literally had every single pin, every single clip, everything on this harness has been taken off, and then I put it all back on. So hopefully it still works, right? Robin Braven's MAF sensor really quick. This is legitimately like first try. I'm nervous as hell that this is gonna do nothing. I still gotta jump a bunch of wires because I don't have like my starter and all that kind of stuff all sorted, but oh, that's good. Fuel pump and everything's kicking on. Thing still works. I'm not gonna lie, it's a few hours later. I went in and I got some sleep. I was up until 5 o'clock and 5, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. Working on the harness, bro. I was working on that thing all night last night. I was like, no, I am finishing it today, damn it. And it hit midnight and I'm like, you know what? If I don't go to sleep, it's still Friday, technically. Ain't that right, Braven?
I think that you're 100% right.
Yeah, so it was still technically Friday because I never went to sleep.
Now it's Saturday.
Yeah, now it's Saturday because I went and got a couple of hours in. You know what I'm saying?
Finally have some time to finish my car.
Oh yeah, you know, working at 9 to 5, bro. Braven's feeling it now, man. He works at a shop every single day. He's got a 9 to 5 job and he's always at work like, I can't wait to get home and work on my freaking truck. And then he gets home and he's freaking beat ass tired because he's been working out in the heat all damn day.
And then I go to the gym.
Yeah, and then he goes to the gym, comes home, eats some Jack in the Box, and goes to sleep. Alright guys, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how long this video is because this was an extremely lengthy process, and it was literally just me doing the same thing over and over and over and over for hours and days. So I don't think I recorded a whole lot of it, but it's done. Damn it. So I'm ending the video here. I'm finally gonna post a video. Peace, and I'll see you guys on the next one. We're supposed to be in the junkyard today. 50% off, man.